You're listening to the Iron and Grace podcast, so pick up your sword and join the good fight.
Micah 6:8. He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and love kindness and to walk humbly with your God? This is Kyle.
This is Drew.
Welcome to Iron and Grace.
We got Andrew Tate on us with us today.
This is my new year, new me. I am Timu
Andrew Tate.
cultist Andrew Tate.
So for those that probably don't know, if you're listening, Kyle got a good comment, which we hope that more people bring comments. Maybe not more like that, or maybe more like that.
Bring it, man. Good laugh.
And they said that Kyle looks like Andrew Tate as a cultist. You put the Timu thing on there yourself, right?
Well, yeah. I just thought that made sense.
Yeah.
Because I can't fight as good as Andrew Tate. I'm probably not as good looking as Andrew Tate. I'm much pastier than Andrew Tate. I'm not rich. So I feel like I'm I'm definitely a cheap knockoff.
You're a cheap knockoff, but a much better human being, I would argue. So, well,
I try.
From what Andrew Tate, how he lives his life, but from what we can see from the outside in. At work, they have a saying that's, not a broad saying, but one of the guys says he calls people the Kmart version.
Nice. I'll take that.
I'm
from the Kmart era.
Yeah. I don't think there is any Kmarts now, is there?
I don't know. I have no idea.
When the Kmart in Chesapeake went out of business, I remember going there before the holidays, and they had it was like the whole Kmart was empty, and they just had this middle section of 4 racks. It was very weird, like an apocalypse.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
So
before I saw that comment, which was, I think that's my favorite comment that we've gotten.
That's definitely.
I laughed for a solid 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But the topic that I was kind of thinking we would maybe chat about today is masculinity.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast with, I'm not going to do him justice. Andrew Huberman's podcast this past week. And he had a guy on there, and that's what he was talking about was masculinity. And, he was one of those guys who's got lots of PhDs and is way smarter than me. And he had a lot of good points, but a lot of those things, a lot of those good points come from kind of a worldly perspective. So they miss some of the things that I think are required to really give you fulfillment in that area, especially in the relationship side. So I was thinking we would talk about that a little bit, and then that. So I decided I better
look the part.
I better put on my most machismo version of myself.
I guess though, it's funny that he called you Andrew Tate. Whether you look like
I can't see with these on. I need my nerd glasses instead. These are my daughter's glasses.
I thought they looked good, and then he informed me that they were the daughter's glasses. So I don't know what that says about me. But hey, it's interesting though, talking about the toxic masculinity. I know that's a trigger word for you, but Andrew Tate being one of the probably more toxic individuals, if you're going to quantify it as that.
I know so little about that guy. I've heard a couple quotes from him, and I've seen a handful of videos, but I really don't know much about him. I know the caricature version of him, I guess. I don't know the guy personally. I don't know his heart. So he could be nothing like that at all in person. But the get jacked, make tons of money, buy expensive shit, nail a bunch of girls is what I've kind of gleaned from the caricature.
Yeah.
Be that what it is.
I mean,
and that is not
who you are.
Well, for a gazillion reasons.
Yeah.
But I think that is not a good image of masculinity. No. And I hope that that's pretty blatantly obvious. If you're a person that sees the word masculinity and that's the picture that pops into your head, maybe some counseling is in order, because you have witnessed the worst part of what it means to be a boy. And that's not a man, that's a boy.
It is. And I think those are the differentiating qualities too that make, take someone out of, not that all boys act that way, but I think that's one way to kind of quantify it is when men are in that type of lifestyle, you really are. They're just completely like throwing themselves like in their retrograde heart. Like they're just completely indulging in all of their lustful desires. Obviously, if you have a lot of money, if you've been successful, you maybe have a better ability to do that, which, I mean, it's clear. And I mean, he proclaims it himself, that's what he's done. He feels like that's okay. We would definitely disagree. But I think that opens the topic of, you see, like, I know we talked about this when we started the podcast, you see a lot of people in the public eye, and that's kind of the image they give. And that's the image that young people are looking up to too.
Yeah.
And I hope we can change that.
And not super young people.
Yeah.
The amount of 30 to 40-year-old guys that see that and they're like, oh man, that's what I'm supposed to be, is a little concerning. Although again, I'm not sure that that's happening as much as the internet would have you believe. I think most people can see through that pretty easily, I would hope. But
I think we've had like a pretty large course correction too, with like culture online. I think you've seen a large flight back to Christianity from the manosphere, or whatever you want to call that space that is social media, toxic masculinity. I'm going to attach that to it because that's what most people say it is. Well, not most people, but that's what the other side would say of it. But because it really is kind of it's always been a weird culture for me, because like we're whole humans, right? As like individuals, like men and women, no matter what age. So to like attach this, like, I guess, guardrails of like what is like, I mean, everything everybody knows, like that image that you see of like the masculine guy, right?
Yeah, right.
But like, I don't know if social media has created that, like those like hard line of like, this is what it is to be that masculine guy. Like you have to train jujitsu, you have to weight train, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I just don't see, like, that's not a holistic way to look at your whole life. And I think people dive into that. And then when you dive into that world, not that stuff's not important and we don't do that, but it almost like takes away the things that are actually more important.
Yeah. Yeah. And and all those things they're not bad things. And it kind of makes me think about, our last episode where we talked about church stuff and pastors making a bunch of money in churches, bringing in a ton of money. And it's like, those things are not the bad things. Like, it's not bad for a pastor to make good money. It's not bad for a church to bring in good money. It's not bad for you to train jiu-jitsu or get strong or make a bunch of money. The bad comes into the motivation behind the thing.
Yeah.
The spot in the hierarchy of priorities where those things lie, and what your heart does with those things. So like if your main priority is make a bunch of money so that I can indulge in all of the things that I think are going to bring me fulfillment, whether it's expensive cars or big houses or whatever your, junk of your taste in junk happens to be, or it's, I'm going to get in great shape so that I can attract all the women so that I can sleep with a different woman every night. If those are your motivations, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. For sure. I think maybe open the door of like, what do you see when you think of masculine people? What do you think is a proper definition of masculinity?
On that podcast, that guy was talking about, he went, decades ago to spend time with the Maasai tribe. And he presented that to them. What is a man, or what is a warrior, something along those lines. And I'm going to paraphrase this poorly like I always do, but he said the one old guy in the tribe got really kind of frustrated with him and was like, I don't care what that is. He said, a warrior is, or a man is It's not just somebody who knows how to do violence and knows how to protect and knows how to hunt, but also knows how to nurture and love and put the weapons down. So again, butchering the paraphrase. But he said it's not just being able to do those things, but it's knowing when to do those, when to switch from one to the other and being able to do it. I'm like, that's
seems like an accurate assessment.
That's real wisdom there.
Yeah. And I think there's like masculine qualities. I think in our world, they've like kind of gotten away from that, and where they're trying to, I mean, we know, that they're trying to move towards like this one gender or whatever. We're not going to get into that topic, but there's definitely masculine qualities that men have, and why we have them, why did God give them to us. It's clear that men are better equipped for strength. We're better equipped athletic wise. Not saying that there's not really athletic and strong women, but men are above. I think nobody can deny that when it comes to physicality, men are a step above.
Yeah.
There's always going to be really out of shape men and really in shape women. But I feel like you're denying an objective truth by saying that it's the same. It's not. So I think there's masculine qualities that we then use in some type of service to others, whether that be our wife, whether that be our community, whether that be the world community, like in that sense, like a true warrior. But I think there's masculine qualities that we use, our strength, our ability to cause violence, really. I mean, I think there's qualities that it's how we bridle those qualities, because the same qualities that can be used to go overseas and destroy evil can be used here to cause great harm. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's also like, it has become very popular to be, what you and I would consider like the good kind of masculine. Yeah. Be strong, be fit, be healthy, be the protector, be the provider, be all those good things. But I think we leave out a pretty solid chunk of men when we do that, because I mean, the simple fact is not every guy is going to be a physical specimen. Not every guy is going to train jiu-jitsu. Not every guy is going to lift weights. Not every guy is able to shoot or has any interest in those things at all. There are lots of guys that are good masculine men in the right form of the word masculine that don't check those boxes at all. And I don't think that's wrong per se. I mean, in my mind, in my life, it's part of my duty to be strong, to be capable for all these things, for the the plan that I have for my family and my life. And I think that's the way that I can honor them best by doing that. But I don't think that everybody has to. I don't think you have to check those boxes in order to land, where you're supposed to be in the masculinity space.
And I think that's a good segue too, because there's a lot of, like I said, there's those guardrails on like what a masculine man is on social media. And I think it does a disservice, like you said, to the men that don't, not everybody's going to fill that role. Everyone does have a different aspect. And a lot of people that do fill that role of being that warrior, or whatever you want to call it, they need other aspects of life, right? And there's sacrificial service that's happening, not just like from a physical standpoint, from an intellectual standpoint too. Like, let's just say not like you have a pastor would be a good example. The primary objective of a pastor is not lifting weights and being good with firearms or weapons or being able to defend himself physically. Now, I think there's maybe some level of competency in your own health too, but I think it does a disservice to say that those are like the only things that matter, because you're doing a disservice to the people that are supporting you, because there's going to be that guy out there that can run and gun and lift heavy weights, and I wouldn't want to get in a fight with, because he's just a physical specimen. That's what he's focusing an energy on. But to be a whole person, to be a whole man, there's a lot of other things integrated into who he is, that while he's doing those things, someone else is supporting him intellectually, right? Like, so like if, or spiritually as a pastor, like his whole being is being supported by people that are not necessarily like him. Maybe that opened like a weird rabbit hole.
Maybe. Okay, so what is the point of masculinity? Like, what's the point of being a man, not a boy, but a man? You know, there's lots of talk about like what makes you a man, when do you become a man, all those things. I don't necessarily mean to go down that path. I mean, I guess we could, but I mean, who the heck am I to define that? But, you know, what's the purpose of man? Our job is to lead in our household. Our job is to provide, and I don't necessarily mean that word in a financial sense. Mm-hmm. There are lots of things that we provide as men, but our job is to build a household, mm-hmm. to build families, to build communities, to build nations. Mm-hmm. So in order to do that, the full portion of masculinity has to consider what we do in the home too. Yeah. So like being physically strong and capable of, you know, jujitsu or whatever, shooting, whatever your thing is, what does that do for you when your wife is at home? She's trying to make dinner. She's had a terrible day. She feels down on herself. She's upset. She feels like everything she's doing a poor job at. And because of all those things, she's a little bit short with you. She's grumpy. She's in a bad mood. Okay, where do your muscles come into play there?
Yeah.
They don't. So the machismo man mm-hmm. sits on his chair and drinks his beer and complains about dinner not being done yet. But the masculine man helps his wife.
Yeah.
You know, the masculine man encourages her.
Yes.
You know, sometimes it's rubbing her shoulders and saying, babe, it's okay. Sometimes it's, babe, why don't you go take a break and I'll take over dinner?
Yeah.
Or washing the dishes in the sink.
I think for me, it's clear we believe from a scriptural standpoint that men lead the household. I think it's clear too, if you're not a Christian, there's a tendency or like a natural order of things. And I think to deny that is something that I just feel like you're lying to yourself to not see it that way. And when I say lead the household, I don't just mean like this, like, you know, overbearing dictatorship, like right. you said.
Well, that's not leading. It's not leading. I don't care what organization you're in. That's not leading.
That's not leading, you know. But I think sacrificial service and picking up responsibilities are two qualities that when it comes to leadership, this picking up responsibility is something that at work I've always tried to do. And when you start to pick up responsibilities that might not even be necessarily your responsibility, mm-hmm. it naturally puts you into a leadership position. Mm-hmm. And I think you do that in your family, you do that in your work. Like you said, the dishes. If whatever's happening in that type of home, the wife's at home cooking, cleaning dishes, maybe she has something else to tend to, and you can pick up that responsibility, and that's you leading. And you're going to elevate your leadership qualities the more responsibilities you're able to take on. Organizationally too. I see it at work. It's crystal clear when you start thinking of things in that framework. Mm-hmm. The people that naturally stand out from a leadership standpoint are the people that when something needs to get done, they're like, okay, I can do that. They pick up that responsibility. The people that fall off and aren't leaders are the people that are like, oh, that's the next guy's job or somebody else will do it. There's just like a natural pecking order of leadership that as people pick up those responsibilities that need to get done, they're going to rise to the top leadership wise. And I think that same concept happens in a household. Men are called to pick up those responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And I think there is a final straw in a household of when push comes to shove, that final responsibility taker is the man. And that could play out like financially, that could play out in a home intruder, that could play out in a lot of scenarios, right?
Well, but 9 times out of 10 in the day to day, you know, or at least once a week, that plays out in she's overwhelmed. My job is to calm the situation down. Yeah. I mean, at least in my house, I'll just say it. In my house, we have 5 kids. Like there is chaos in my house all the time. And which is awesome. It's the best kind of chaos. But, sometimes my wife gets overwhelmed because her to-do list is, cyclical. It never, ever, ever stops.
Yeah.
Sometimes it grows, but it never gets smaller. So she gets overwhelmed sometimes. Like she always is doing the best she can, and sometimes she feels like that's not enough. So my job is the leader of the house is to not come in and go, oh, sink's full of dishes again. My job is to come in and ease her mind and let her know, honey, I see how hard you're working. You're doing just fine. These things that are stressing you out don't really matter. At least they don't matter right now. It's okay. What can I do to help?
Yeah.
That's leading. I think. I mean, again, who am I to give opinions? But the home intruder stuff, that kind of stuff is easy. Like we, at least in our little world of the things that we like to do, like to think about, like to plan for, we all have that idea in our head, like someone's going to break in and I get to do the thing that I've been training for, or somebody's going to try something in a store and I get to take care of business. That's the easy side.
Yeah. That's something insightful that you've said a couple times on the podcast is, I've never really thought about it that way, but like the easy stuff of weight training, of firearms, of jiu-jitsu, of stopping the home intruder. It's not easy because it's easy to stop somebody breaking into your house. Maybe depending on who you are, it is, but it's easy because you know what's right or wrong.
Yeah.
The right call.
I don't mean easy like I'm all of a sudden Superman and I'm going to beat up everybody and win the battle. That's not what I mean by easy. I mean easy like you said. That's the easy decision to make.
Yeah, the crux of the decision is easy there.
Yeah.
And I think it goes in our Christian walk too, and I think and just in right and wrong in general, the things that we struggle with, I think, to give an example, let's say you lose your temper and you yell at your wife in front of the kids. The hard thing is to humble yourself and look, I had a hard day at work, or I had a hard day at jiu-jitsu and I got frustrated with what just happened. I yell at you, and then maybe to go to the kids and be like, look, dad gets frustrated just like you get frustrated.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have yelled at mom. We talked about it. We apologized. That's, in most cases, that's going to be the hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Everybody knows when somebody comes busting through the door and you got a house full of kids and a wife, you know the right thing to do is to stop that home intruder.
At a minimum, it's like, okay, I die first.
Yeah.
And that's, I've never been in that situation, so I might, pee myself and pass out. But at least in my mind, I'm as prepared for that. Like I know what the right answer there is.
Yeah.
But that, again, that's easy. The difficult thing is, inside the relationships that are not short term. Like the relationship with your kids, the relationship with your wife, these are, if you do it right, permanent relationships.
Yeah.
So to take the time when things are a little bit hairy to lead well and to lead, what did I read? Let's see. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? So we love to be kind. We love kindness. We should be kind with our spouse. We should be kind with our kids. Not to be a pushover. That's not the same thing.
No.
I don't think. But it's also, when she's pissed and having a bad day, it's to not, she's here on the frustration level. My job is not to go to here. My job is to go to here.
Yeah.
And
I think when you look at it, I think when people say toxic masculinity, I think they also see very there's a lot of self-interest in what those people do. The people that are qualifying as toxic masculinity. There's a lot of self-interest there, but when you're expressing your masculinity in a correct way, like you have a household and there's a mission to that household, right? And you're supporting that mission. We're all on the same mission. We have different roles. All of our roles are important, but we're all working towards the same mission. And it's our duty to lead that mission, and we all have different roles, but I think people get misplaced in not understanding that the household's moving not moving physically, but moving towards that mission as a whole. And that's the goal of the household. Just like a ship is sailing and there's a bunch of people working on the ship filling different roles, but there's always going to be a leader that helps get that ship to that next point. And I think that's a proper way to think about.
Yeah, and the ship is made of wood and people are constantly shooting at it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Spiritually, culturally, and sometimes physically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we misplace why we do things. Like, why do people are weight training just to weight train. People are training firearms just to train firearms. We've forgotten the purpose of that. You know, if your job is in law enforcement, yeah, you're going to weight train. Yeah, you're going to shoot firearms because that's your duty. You're responsible for that. It's your job to steward over that aspect of the community. Someone's going to shoot at you, or you're going to have to shoot at someone to stop them from hurting someone, or you're going to have to use your physical capabilities to stop someone or save someone. Like I know TJ talked about pulling people out of a car. That's directly correlated to their responsibility and role from a vocation and from a service standpoint. Not everybody does that. So to weight train just to weight train doesn't make any sense. If you're a pastor and you're weight training, yeah, there's some level of, if my wife got attacked, I'm a little more capable, but you're weight training to be healthy. You're weight training because it helps you with discipline. You know, there's other reasons you're weight training. You're not just weight training to be buff to lift more weights. Like it's like a circle, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, being, like we talked about the other day, being strong, has way more benefits than downsides for sure. But it goes back to it's all about the why. The why is super important. You know, get jacked, make money, buy stuff, get women is, the reason I said that's a very boyish thing is because, a young boy before he becomes responsible for another life, be that a spouse or children, hopefully a spouse before children, but we live in now 2026, so whatever. But the boy's priority is himself. The boy thinks, me, what can I do? A boy that's focused properly is, what can I do to build myself into somebody who's worthy of taking care of another life. Yeah. Like, I think that's a good boy. That's a boy that's on his way to becoming a decent man. The worldly boy is, I want to build myself up. I want to increase my wealth so that I can have more things that satisfy me better, that bring me more happiness. Me, more. And there's no end to that road because there's never enough stuff. There's never enough money. There's never going to be the perfect girl or combination of girls or whatever you're into. It will never fulfill what a family will fulfill. And even that family will never fill the void that is meant to be filled by Christ. So like, he's the centerpiece around which you build your home, your household, your life, and everything. And in that, you can have fulfillment. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how much stuff you have. Life is still going to happen to you at some point. You're still going to get sick. You're still going to wreck the car. There's going to be life that happens to you at some point. So what do you do with that when you're in your little community with Christ? In my cult, in your
cult, the cultist.
When you're in my cult, with Christ at the center and your family, and life happens, you have a team to help work through that, and you have something to lead. When you have something to lead, it gives you encouragement and strength to do what you have to do. You've got a reason to accomplish the thing. And I think that, I don't think that can be, you can't get there in a worldly way.
Yeah. And I think it's clear we build and we do those things to serve others. And I think when you see the wrong side of the coin, you see people building to serve themselves. Like you said, like you laid out. But
my cult is going to be dope, by the way.
You're building a cult of sacrificial service to others. It seems like a strange cult, but
we're taking members.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What I've always thought this, and America's gone astray, I think, in recent years. Hopefully we're getting back to the correct route. But I think you've seen America be very successful as a whole, as a country, as a community. We're all part of it here. And I think what's made the United States be so successful, and this is probably going to get a lot of flack, but is because of freedom, of something back home that people go overseas and die for. And when we lose that culture that we've built and really protected, I think you start to see people, well, what am I really going over there for? When we have a bunch of self-minded people serving selfishly, it's pretty easy for men to say, well, why would I go over there when I could just, do this here,
Yeah.
Men fight for others. Like that's the proper order of things, whether that fight is like you described, humbling themselves and their family, or whether it is going overseas and fighting actual evil.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. Fighting that fight.
Yeah.
Culturally or physically.
It's difficult too, I think, for some of these guys to do that when, they're trying to serve sacrificially, but the ones in charge are not.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely can see that, and like I said, I mean, it's like cyclical. Like you're fighting for the sheer sake of fighting. We fight and battle for the sake of good and justice, like Scripture tells us. We fight for something. We don't just fight for the sake of fighting, which I think in the flip side, people fight for just the sake of fighting, right?
Yeah, I mean we do that for fun in a way less, in a way where the outcome is not a big deal.
But I mean, it's a hobby, right? Like it's hard to. Everybody wants to be like, say that whatever their hobby is not their hobby, unless you have like a job that demands you to perform in a way. It's a hobby.
Yeah,
it's something you're doing.
Jiu-jitsu is totally a hobby.
But I think we lose track of that, and that's just But I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't know. Well, all that was, as you were talking, I was trying to remember that I wanted to read this quote, and it goes back to, the man's position in the house. And I think, have you read John Eldridge's book, Wild at Heart?
I don't think so. I know the concept.
Dude, it's really good. It's really good.
Some of the stuff.
And, part of what he says is, every man wants a dragon to slay, beauty to rescue, and adventure to have.
Yeah. Basically.
Which I really agree with. I mean, I really resonate with that. I think that's great. But this quote, and it was on that Huberman podcast, the guy said, I go out and I fight dragons and I come home and where's my martini and slippers? Which kind of leads into that, like, I provide for the house. I come home, I expect the dishes to be done and dinner to be made and you to rub my feet. And it's a television version of man. It's not real and it doesn't work. And if that's your mindset, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're going to have an unhappy wife at minimum. And that wasn't a quote that he said to say that that's how it should be. He went on and described, the proper mindset to have. And I think he was relatively close, but I heard that. I'm out working in the shop and I heard that and I had to like hit pause and go write it down because I'm like, that hit me pretty hard. If we're supposed to be men that image Christ, who came as God to serve and to lay down his life for us, how should we image that in our day to day? And I think what we're called to do is, we're supposed to go out and fight the dragons, which maybe fighting the dragons for you is you go to work, you work 8 hours, you deal with those headaches, you drive home. And those are the dragons that you had to slay that day. And through, life will throw curveballs at you. And that is what it is. We deal with that. And then we come home and we're tired And all we want is to eat dinner, spend a little time with the wife and kids, and go to bed. But what we're supposed to do is we come home, we have slain the dragons, we kiss the princess, and we get to work at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we continue to serve, and we continue to sacrifice. And maybe that means helping with the dishes, or maybe it means cooking dinner, or maybe it just means playing with the kids because they're driving mom nuts. And if you can just get them to be quiet for 10 minutes, she's going to be able to come down a couple notches. You know, I think the idea of, and I've got several buddies and I've had the conversation with, you know, countless guys over the years where I say, you know, my job is to provide and her job is to take care of the house. And I expect her to, you know, and I think most of the time when guys say this to other guys, they say it, but in their head, they're like, I understand this isn't really how it works. But they feel like they're supposed to say, you know, I come home and I expect dinner to be done. I expect the dishes to be done, the kids to be taken care of. And every time I hear that, my heart breaks a little bit. And I want to go, guy, you're doing it wrong. You are supposed to be the one that sacrifices a little bit more, which is hard. Yeah. Because if you have a wife who, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. She also homeschools the kids. So we have things that, you know, if you're not a stay-at-home mom, she works, and she's slaying dragons too. But for the stay-at-home moms, she has been on call 24 hours a day since that kid was born. Yeah. So, yeah, we go to work and we slay a different kind of dragon, and we come home and we're physically tired. But if you've got multiple kids, your wife is tired too. Yeah. You know, and she's been dealing with stuff nonstop while you were away, and she's going to have to continue to deal with it through the night. So to say our job is to sacrifice a little bit more than them is really tough. Like, we should really up our sacrifice level to try and catch up and surpass a little bit. That's not an easy thing to do.
And actually, one of the comments on one of the videos, I don't even remember what the topic was, but I feel like there's this like elimination of roles, right, between men and women in our world. And I think it's really damaging. But one of the comments was like, isn't that just being a good human for everyone? I don't remember what the topic was. But I think that's like the attack that we feel like. It's like, well, shouldn't she be sacrificially serving as well?
Yes.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, duh.
But I do think, and I think anybody that ignores that is ignoring absolute truth and something that's observable, and every human experiences it. And I think a good example that I've heard used is like literature or entertainment as a whole, wholesome entertainment as a whole. But when you look at books and you look at things that men typically like to read, like you said, it's slaying the dragon, saving the princess, these like big mission-based sacrificial service type of things. And when you see books that women typically like to read, they're more relationship-based. We're not drawn to the same type of entertainment in books, right? And I think that is a tell of our type of service and our type of things that women are built for and men are built for. And I think that's one thing that is observable that we can look at and can kind of guide us into the different areas of service that we may fill, if that made sense.
Yeah. Well, and like, okay, dummy, for the one that's like, isn't that just being a good person? Yeah. Okay. Whether you think I'm a complete idiot or not, like, go home today and try and out-sacrifice your spouse. Like, try and serve them sacrificially, and go ahead and get in a competition to see who can serve the other better. It's probably going to work out great.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, that's the way we should frame.
Oh, you're sacrificing for me, and I'm sacrificing for you. Obviously, you care for me. This is pretty good. Like, yes. Most of this stuff is actually not rocket science.
It's not. And I think what has happened in our society, I mean, just like anything, like we've almost like gluttoned ourselves into submission. And like now there's this just like blending of roles and blending of genders and things because of how in the United States, at least, and in any country that's like ours, there's not a lot of, struggles, I guess. There are struggles, but it's very easy. You know, we have a lot of choices.
Our struggles today look a lot different than
we have a lot of choices that we're able to make today that weren't even on the table, you know, even just probably 150 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, if you lived in 500, it was pretty clear what the role of the husband was, you know? And did toxic masculinity happen back then? Probably happened back then, right? I mean, you've seen these tyrant kings as well, but it was pretty clear that if, you know, the village was going to battle, the men are going to step up and go to battle.
Yeah.
Or when a house needed to be raised and they were going to go out in the woods and cut down lumber to raise a house, it was pretty clear whose role that was going to be, right? Because of the qualities that men and women have differently. And I think nowadays there's a lot of luxury that we have that kind of blend those roles. And I think there can be good things in that and there can be bad things in that. And I think that's kind of what you've seen in modern society. But like you said, one thing that I see happening, especially with a lot of guys that I work with, not anybody specific, but you live that example of you work and your wife stays home. Who works harder is like up for grabs, right? Because she's got a really hard job at home, super important job at home. You have a hard job at work, super important job at work. And you're leading this mission and y'all are working together towards a joint mission as a household. Nowadays, a lot of people are both working in the household, but yet the man expects a stay-at-home mom out of a mom that's been now had to step out into the workforce. And I think you do have to shift gears if that's the reality or that's the choice y'all are making is y'all both working. I think the man needs to take a step back, and he's probably got even more responsibilities at home than the guy that's got a stay-at-home mom because someone's not working full-time at the house.
And he should. And whether you feel like, well, it's her job to do the cooking and it's her job to do the cleaning, she's probably better at those things. Okay, that's fair. No, that's not fair. That may be true in your mind that she's better at those things, but again, your job is to be a sacrificial servant.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Christ was the ultimate king. He's God. He is the one in control, and yet he came as a servant and he's told us to do what he did.
Yeah.
So like our job, if your wife works hard, okay, you should work harder and you should come home and you should help.
Yeah.
You know, and who cares what you feel like you're supposed to do? Fold her underwear, dude. Yeah. And don't complain about it.
Yeah.
You know, I like to think about it and I'm not good at this. Like, to be fair, like this is something I think about a lot and I screw up a lot. So, you know, none of us are perfect. Certainly not me. But, you know, a man who works with his hands, like I can only talk to the life that I live in. You know, I come home, especially this time of year, like all my fingertips crack and
cold,
bleed, and it just, man, it hurts. My hands are so damn sore at the end of the day. But, you know, Jerry Lynn had a kind of a tough day yesterday, a tough conversation with a friend who's going through some difficult things, and that woman needed her back rubbed. When we laid down last night, she needed her back rubbed. There's no tough guy thing about rubbing a woman's back. It ain't hard. It don't take a whole lot of muscle. It doesn't take anything fancy other than you to care. Mm-hmm. And you know what? When your fingers hurt like hell, still rub your woman's back.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like the most minuscule sacrifice ever. Like, I have a beautiful woman and I have to rub her back. Damn.
Yeah.
But still, in that moment, she really appreciated that. Yeah. Like, my back's sore, and more than that, I'm just mentally beat down.
Yeah. And I think it's like we named the podcast, right? Iron and Grace. That was kind of like an embodiment of like a properly oriented man, right? They have strength. They have the iron aspect of, you know, their manhood or whatever you want to call it, but they also exhibit grace. They have kindness. They're a whole human being. They're not just a masculine man, right? And not in a negative way, you know, but they're a whole human being. They're not just what we quantify as masculine qualities, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think that's where the world's gone astray, is what they're defining as masculine qualities.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a young guy at the gym today, and we were talking about, as we were rolling, I like to have a conversation while I'm rolling, especially with the guys that haven't been doing it as long, because I think it's extra frustrating for them. But
It pushes their mental capacity.
Yeah, which is good for them.
Under stress.
And I was asking him if he would, hey man, when are you gonna start coming to Bible study with us before open mat? He's like, oh, I didn't get up quite early enough today. I would like to come. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, come on. And I just started asking him questions like, where are you at in your faith and things like this, in the most articulate way I can, while I'm also trying to choke the life out of him. And he's trying to do the same to me. And he's like, well, I like to think I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person. He's young. He's in his 20s. I'm like, okay. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, well, I try and live a righteous life. And I'm like, okay. I said, swing and a miss, buddy. I said, you don't. None of us do. Yeah. And we got to talking about this, and I told him, I'm like, okay, so this is one of the things that, ideally you're brought up with this, and you never have to go down the path of I'm questioning what religion to go for or who's God and all these things. I mean, even if you're a believer, you're going to have these questions from time to time, but ideally you don't have to go you don't have to go through the journey that he is. But I'm like, okay, this is part of the transition from being a boy into being a man that can have and support a wife and have and support children, is figuring out the right way to do that, what you're supposed to image, what you're supposed to avoid, and where your hope is. Yeah. Where your fulfillment can be. Like, because you've got a girlfriend that you are living with. I'm like, so you just said you're trying to live righteously. I'm like, well, okay. Yeah. That's kind of a thing, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, and I did it too. So, not judging you. I'm just saying, like, if the standard that you're living by is I'm trying to live righteously, well, no, you're actually not. None of us are. None of us are. Like, we like to think we are. I even have a t-shirt that says live righteously. And it's not like because I do, it's because that's what we strive for. Yeah. But, like, once you get your heart focused properly towards Christ, who's the only one that can feel, and I asked him, I was like, you ever have that feeling like it's never enough? There's always another thing, and that thing is never quite enough, and you're not quite enough, and you always feel like you're screwing stuff up, and you never feel like you're getting it right, and you never feel like you're going to be good enough. He's like, every day. Yeah. I said, that hole is Jesus shaped. Like, that's the only thing that will ever fill that hole. Like, I know guys in their 50s and 60s and 70s that have never found that and still have that hole and are still dumping stuff into it. Stuff can be relationships, stuff can be money, stuff can be physical stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. There's no amount of crap in the world that will ever fill that hole. Yeah. Because at some point, you're going to fight with your girlfriend or your wife. Things aren't going to go the way you planned. At some point, you're going to get sick and your money's not going to matter. Or you're going to lose your job and you're not going to have the money. Or whatever thing that you worked so hard to obtain, you receive it, and 2 days later, it doesn't feel as exciting as it was. Yeah. And then it's the next thing. Like, it's never ending. Like, literally never, ever, ever ending. Like, this world will find a way to beat you down at some point. Like, the only thing that can give you peace that lasts, peace that's not fragile, and hope that lasts and is not fragile, and fulfillment is Christ. Like, if you find this and you center everything else in life around it, when life comes and beats on you, you've got something, you still have your peace and you still have your hope and you still have your fulfillment, because they're not in you, they're in Christ. The only one that, has been able to really do this masculinity thing properly. Correctly. Yeah. I think I've been reading C.S. Lewis. Mere monologue.
Yeah. It was a good monologue. I've been reading C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity, and he does it way more elegantly than I'll probably be able to, but he lays out, like a case for God in the beginning of that book, even prior to going into any of like the Christianese or Christian ethics that we know from Scripture. And that's something that always related with me, because put everything aside of, how our life's going to be currently in this world, right? But every human is hurtling towards something, which is death, and we can't avoid that. There's no avoiding it. It's really the only thing, and
taxes.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, right? But we're all hurtling towards death, and we all have this like itch or thought of like, what's going to happen. And some people spend money to try to avoid death. Some people pour themselves into their job to try to avoid the reality that this is going to happen.
I don't mean to cut you off. Keep going.
But you can't avoid it. And I think the question of what's going to happen next, I think maybe an atheist might say nothing's going to happen next, so we just live the best life we can. But I think you're being immature, because I think even an atheist comes to the reality of the spiritual, right? Mm-hmm. That there is something more. And I think that's the most human thing, because we were created that way. And I think that's where any honest person that's honest with themselves has to come to that reality. And once you've come to that reality, okay, something else does exist, and I'm going to die.
Yeah.
What does that look like, right? And there's many different religions, but
everybody worships something.
Yeah.
Everybody. No, the atheist, the Muslim, the Hindu, the universalist, whatever. Everybody worships something. Everybody. Yeah. Do you worship money? Do you worship things? Do you worship fame? Do you worship yourself? I think in America, that's our thing. Like we worship ourselves big time. But when I started to cut you off, have you seen the guy that his plan is to live forever?
Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah.
Oh, he's scary looking for one. But he the stuff that he does to try and live forever which he's not going to.
Yeah, and then
spoiler alert, he's going to die at some point, just like the rest of us. But the life that he is living seems miserable to me.
And what's so funny too, from like a science standpoint of like the people, like you just can't, you're not going to, right? Like there's one thing that like we all agree on, that like our aging is like something we can't counteract. Like there's this element of decay that just happens, right? And there's no getting around it. Now, we will live together. Our consciousness, our soul will live forever in eternity. And how you're going to step into that eternity is the important question that as Christians, we've found the answer to. And I hope that other people look for an answer, because if they're truly looking for an answer and they're seeking truth, I think it's irrefutable that they'll find Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. And, again, like I was saying, everybody worships something, and we have a tendency to worship ourselves. But we, worship something that's inherently flawed. Like I'm inherently flawed. I am not worthy of worship, nor is anybody else. So, you can make fun of us all you want for worshiping what you think is an imaginary God or whatever. But the reality is you're worshiping something too. What are you worshiping? Is it worthy of worship? Because the guy that I worship he lived a life that I am incapable of living. And then he willingly died a miserable and painful death to pay a price that I'm meant to pay so that I wouldn't have to pay it. So like the ultimate hero story of I'm the one that deserved death and pain and agony, and he saw some value in me, so he stood in front of that and took it for me. Like, that's the guy I worship.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of, you go, oh, he's not real, it didn't actually happen. There's all kinds of historical evidence of him and the resurrection and all those things, and that's for a smarter guy to debate you, who can, lay it out in a more articulate way than I can. But choose the thing you worship wisely, because you're going to worship something.
Yeah. And like, when I was an atheist, I even thought this. I always thought that people with religion were like afraid of death, and they were trying to ease the pain of what it looked like. But
funny thing is, it's actually the exact opposite.
I agree. That's my point. It's like, I think, the atheist is afraid of what's next. And I think by completely taking what's next off the table, you know, it makes it a little easier. But I think there's a yearning in all of us. I know there's a yearning in all of us, and you can't deny it. And I think it makes people very troubled that try to ignore it in an atheist's mind, you know, whether they're agnostic or atheist or whatever. But you see people that are very troubled because they ignore that yearning. And then whether that ends in suicide, whether that ends in a very troubled life, not to say that some atheists don't live a normal life.
Or even a great life from outside perspective that inside is still empty, because that's the world is set up in a way where you can be rewarded here.
Yeah.
For worshiping yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, you can stack chips in your favor, but at the end of the day, like, the game is still over at some point.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's something that we need to, you know, put some thought into as Christians too, is, you know, finishing well. Mm-hmm. And the way we do death. You know, my grandmother just passed away this past week, the day after Christmas. She was 99. I mean, she I hate that she's gone, but
it was time.
She did a good job.
Yeah.
She stuck around. And to see this was a Christian family that grew up. All of the children were Christian. So to see the way that they deal with her death now and the circumstances around it and all of the things, like, that's the kind of thing that we should, you know, put some effort in making sure that we do well and different from the world. I'm not sure that we're very good at death in this country.
No.
It's a whole completely another topic for another day. But I think we should put some thought into how we do death here.
Yeah, I think it's something that unravels in people's lives at the last minute, and some people aren't ready for it. You know, or they're not prepared, their family's not prepared, whether that be like mentally or spiritually or whatever you want to call it. But, you know, I have a saying that I always say, like, when people are getting older, like my wife's grandmother lives with us. It's always she's so content, and that's her Christian faith. Like, she knows where she's going when she dies. So of course she's content in death. Right. And, you know, I think that example's lived out by the apostles. Right. But it's like, are we afraid of death? Right. There's like an uncertainty there that even a Christian has, because I don't really know what that's going to look like. Right. You know, I trust in Christ and where I'm going, but, you know, it's new. I've never died before, right? You know, no one has. I mean, I guess some people have, but
you can look into the near-death experiences thing.
It's wild.
It's pretty interesting, and I don't know what to make of a lot of that. I find it interesting, and I don't really consider it much more than that. That's one of those things that I don't need to know exactly what's next. That's what's hell going to be like and what's heaven going to be like. Is it eternal fire where you're being torn to pieces, and is heaven you're riding on a cloud in a white robe with the golden halo? Probably not. But that's not for me to determine, and I'm not really worried about it. I know, you know, the trust and faith that carries me through this world that is so broken and so messed up and so full of chaos. I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to lay out the heaven that doesn't have those things in a way that's going to be pretty dope. So
yeah,
I'm good with whatever he comes up with.
I mean, from a Christian standpoint, sin brought death into the world, and heaven's a place without that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even from a not Christian standpoint, like apparently there are at least some people that catch at least our shorts that don't agree with us, and that's cool. Like that's awesome. I hope more people that don't agree with us listen than do. But even if you're not a Christian or you think I'm absolutely nuts, which if you do, you should think he's nuts too, and say mean things to him too.
I've dodged the mean comments a little bit.
I really thought the Santa episode would do it, but.
There were some mean comments, but not like...
You're just such a sweetheart.
Nothing like you got.
I'm a dick, so...
Maybe that's what it is. I feel like I'm good as my hair gets longer, I'm going to start getting probably inappropriate comments.
Your personality's going to change as your hair gets longer.
Yeah.
That's your...
People's view of me may change.
But anyways, like the concepts laid out by Christ in the Bible are great to live by. Even if you can't get behind it, which, you know, I think you're flawed and wrong, but if you just live the example that he lived, you'll have a more content family. You'll have a better marriage. Your work life will be better. Like, life is better when you do masculinity like Christ did. Period.
I think that is one thing for me as, you know, someone that believes in Christ now that didn't. I think seeing like Christian ethics, seeing the truth that's in Scripture and seeing it lived out is one of the evidences for me.
Yeah.
It's for me, it was, you know, I think in C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, he kind of expounds on that way better than I would, but I think that's clear. You know, there's so much truth there. And that's something I know Jordan Peterson talks about in a lot of his videos, is like, you can't deny that.
Yeah.
You see it. And it's
and he's a good example because, you know, he's been asked, I don't know how many times, are you a Christian? Are you a Christian? Are you a Christian? And he doesn't say no, but he also doesn't say yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm a little bit of an idiot. Jordan Peterson is definitely not. He's a very smart guy. So take it from him. Like, if you live out the life that is laid out for you in the Bible, it's going to give you, you're still going to deal with life. You're still going to deal with this world, and you're going to screw it up. Just like whatever set of rules you've given yourself or whatever set of standards you try and live by, at some point, you're going to screw it up. Like, that's just what we do. We're human. Nobody's perfect. So what's your out in your standards, you know, in your worldly standards? When you screw it up, where is forgiveness for you? Where is grace for you? And why do you think you deserve that?
Yeah.
You know, why do good things, and why should anybody else do good things for you?
Yeah.
Like, what's your moral compass? Where do you get it? I want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we could ramble about that topic. I think that's a good one to hit in the future.
Yeah.
Let's sum it up and give a little synopsis on what a good man looks like from your perspective. And I'll give my perspective. Okay. And then somebody in the comments will give their perspective.
I would say I probably don't fall into the good man category because I don't know that there are any truly good among us. But, you know, what I try my best to be, and I think is the best example that I can give, is a good man is somebody who's willing to, not just willing to, but strives to go out and fight the dragons of life, be that what they are, in your job, in your day-to-day routine, to go out to work in a sacrificial way that, you know, maybe provides financially for your family or whatever the situation there is. You go out, you fight those dragons, and you come home, and you don't say, where are my slippers and my martini? You say, how can I serve here too? And you serve in a way that is sacrificial and honest, and you are just as willing to rub her back when your hands hurt as you are to go to work and slay the dragons there.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I feel like when you're properly oriented, right, we care about our character. We care about our integrity. We don't lie. Those are the small things. They're not the small things, but those are the things that a lot of people don't talk about. You know, your integrity is extremely important as a man, you know, and we can't properly go out there and slay the dragons and lead our household and do the things that men do without integrity and character. And that's one thing that's always radiated with me is you've got to prioritize that. You've got to prioritize your soul essentially and have it properly oriented so that you can go out and, like Kyle said, slay those dragons and do it properly and do it oriented with a mission and not yourself being that mission.
Yeah. And, because I don't care how good you are at slaying the worldly dragons. If you go out and you slay all day long and you come home and you're an asshole to your spouse, your wife, if you come home and you're an asshole to your wife and to your kids, those dragons don't mean anything, buddy.
Yeah.
Don't mean anything at all. So,
yeah.
Slay dragons. Do it. Be a provider. Be a protector. Be a king in your home, but be a servant king in your home.
Yeah.
That leads in a way that shows humility and love and a willingness to sacrifice.
Yeah. For the people that aren't married, go out there, get a wife, pick up responsibilities, serve somebody else other than yourself, and do it with integrity.
Yeah. Prepare yourself to be that the best way you can.
Yeah. And before we close, I want to say, maybe I'll make it into a short. Thanks for all the people that follow us. We've had some pickup in followers. I think we're like 160, 165. We've had more comments, I feel like, in the last month or two, good and bad. So thank you for the comments.
Yeah, bring it. Bad ones, good ones. It's awesome. We like your interaction is fantastic.
Yeah.
Share this around. What do they say? Like and follow or whatever.
Something like
if you
that.
If you watch on YouTube or don't, I don't care. We enjoy doing this. It's fun. It's a good chance to come and beat ideas off of each other and ramble for a while.
And it helps sharpen us, and hopefully, through us explaining and diving into these topics, it'll hopefully sharpen others. That's our goal, right?
Yeah, today I got to wear this dope shirt and look like an idiot with my sunglasses.
Nobody's up close enough probably to see, but there's little guns on it.
There are.
It probably looks like kind of a crazy shirt from a distance. I mean, it is a crazy shirt, but it's a cool shirt.
I don't wear it very often because I don't, I'm not in a button-up shirt very often.
No.
And I'm not generally clean enough to wear a essentially white shirt. But yeah, I like it.
Keep bringing the Andrew Tate comments.
Please.
Yeah. All right. Till next time.
This has been Iron and Grace. Out.